going to just start. Okay. So, welcome to season 2. Yes, I'm calling it that, of Conversations with Kate. And I'm truly honored to be here today with Jen Lee. For those of you who might not know Jen yet, oh my goodness, you're lucky to be here with me and Jen today. I met Jen, I don't even know how many years ago. It's a long time now. It was before my infertility journey, and then I got into a workshop at Squam Lake. I don't know if it was their second year of the art thing, or it wasn't the first year. And while I didn't have the most marvelous time at the general workshop, the thing that was totally magical were the few workshops that I took rather than the whole experience. And I was lucky to get into a writing workshop with Jen. And it was purely magical, and not for the writing. It was this moment, and I think it was in the beginning, Jen. You came up to me and you welcomed me to the group, and you looked at me, and I felt like you were seeing me, like seeing my actual self, not the self I was trying to be to handle a social situation, or the self that, I polish, or the self. It was like you saw past all of whatever the social stuff is, and you were seeing my actual self, and it was such a stunning moment for me. I'll never forget it. I have goosebumps all over again, and I wanted to pass muster. It's like as you're seeing myself, my soul, my whatever you were seeing into, I was hoping that I would sort of make it. But Jen is a filmmaker. She's a maker of many things, connections above all else. Most delightful creator of communal spaces, real and imaginary. And for those of you who follow Jen, you know that she is in this crazy transition, having just moved from Brooklyn to Stockholm, or near Stockholm.
Yep.
It's insane. I mean, like when I say just, I mean she might be sitting on boxes. Like this was like really quick. It was really recent. So, we're gonna just talk about what it is to be human in these moments, because that's really what it comes down to. This human piece, this connection piece.
I'm so happy to be here with you. I've been really looking forward to our conversation. And I felt like there aren't a lot of people I can talk to right now, but I can talk to Kate.
Yay!
So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying yes. That was the best. I wanted to restart these after time off from them, just because for logistical reasons, and it seemed like I was having a hard time making it work. And then when you said yes, and then this timing just opened for both of us, it's like, okay, jump in. It's time to jump in. So there's a real gentleness to this day here. It's a gray day with soft rain, and it's dark, and it feels close, and it feels like a day to curl up with a blanket and tea and be gentle. And I woke up this morning, and instead of doing any of those things, I had the moment where I look at my phone to see if we're at war. I look at my
Yeah.
I sort of started with so much trauma, and I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask you about as a sister maker, as a person who sees past the surfaces, and someone who is so connected, as a sensitive in this world of pointy parts. How you doing? How you navigating? What are we? How do we not? This. We are so connected to the love space. If we get calloused because we can't handle it, well, who's going to hold that love space? I mean, I'm saying it really badly, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Just so how are you navigating?
Um, yeah, these are good questions. uh, when I think about this question, like how are you? I think the the truest answer is that it's really complicated, and and I feel like it's made it difficult for me to figure out how to navigate the online space and even how to have certain conversations because it's so impossible to represent the whole of anything that any attempt I make feels like such a small slice that it feels inherently untrue, even if it's in that moment the most true thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And so something in me just kind of like rails against that. But then the answer for me is not to just stay out of communication either. But it's just something I'm bringing my awareness to because it's a very natural and human trait that we take whatever information we're given, like whatever snapshot, and then we fill in the rest with our imagination. So, and we even do this with our friends, like not even just like strangers or people we see only on the internet. Like I was just thinking back, realizing how I even do this with my friends sometimes where, someone's mother's died and she'll say in one moment, like, she's fine, she's doing really great. And so then you think, she's fine, she's doing really great. And you may not realize that, like, within 48 hours, she could be totally laid out in bed and unraveling. And it doesn't mean she wasn't totally great 48 hours ago. But just I think the truth is whenever we're navigating things like grief and loss, our experience is so up and down and all over the map and so changeable. I think that's the thing, is that, and maybe we just need to keep asking. And I feel like the only people who really know how I am are the people who hear from me a lot and like really frequently.
Yeah.
And so they know like I have all the spaces and they can even track by times of day. Like, she's always more optimistic in the morning. By 5 p.m., everything has kind of this like dark cloud, this like Eeyore cloud hangs over everything just because I'm tired. So I think the truth is it's complicated, and the truth is that I'm just really struggling with this paradox that I inhabit. I am like, it's 100% true that like my heart is completely shattered. And it's also 100% true that I'm like still here and somehow putting one foot in front of the other. But I think we do this thing with emotion and where we want to like balance the equation of it. So we want our strength to mean that we're only like halfway broken, and we want the brokenness to mean that we're like only halfway strong. But the truth is, like, those two things are just like 100% true realities that my cells are trained to reconcile all the time. Like, I've probably never been so broken, and I've probably never been so strong. And the way it feels to have those two things simultaneously true inside of me it feels like exhaustion a lot of the time, And and I've been worried about people. I think I've been concerned because it's been such a difficult year. And I feel like the global news is so completely overwhelming that there's this way where I feel like it makes it like, you know what it is? It's like I'm worrying that it's driving our personal sorrows underground because I feel like to speak about those things inside the context of these larger things that we're like collectively outraged by, terrified of, grieving, mourning, it feels like maybe it's not safe to say those things, or maybe it'll be misunderstood. And there's so much, I think online, there's so much judgment flying around about how people are, how can you be talking about immigration when there's a hurricane happening? There's a lot of like judgment flying around about how people are responding, how people are speaking out when they're being quiet or not quiet. And the truth is underneath the surface of everything you see, everyone has this whole other like personal experience happening that the truth of it is too complicated to capture even when we try. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really do.
I also think it's probably an equally hard time for people who are having joyful moments.
I know.
People who are falling in love, people who are finally finding work they love, like having personal joy in the presence of this also like collective sorrow. I think the nature of life is that life doesn't usually give you one or the other. They're usually spaces we have to like cohabit,
Yeah.
I mean, does it feel like this for you?
You give me goosebumps the whole time. Yep. I think you put a lot of beautiful words to this feeling of false dichotomy. I mean, it's not just dichotomy, false multiplicity. I mean, there's so many interwoven pieces, right, in all the dimensions. It's not just a flat thing, it's a deep thing, and it's moving through space.
I keep thinking of these, like if I have a mantra or anything, like I feel like the only way I'm making sense of my life right now is that I have these sentences that alternate in my mind, and it's like life is beautiful and life is hard, and life is beautiful and life is hard, and I just feel like those are like my heart's like the tetherball, like those are the kind of poles I'm like all the time flowing between. And just because I tell you it's hard doesn't mean that I can't see the beauty or feel grateful for the things I'm grateful for. And just because there's beauty around me doesn't make it without challenge. So it's been a hard year for me, and there have been a lot of layers, and there have been things that have been hard to talk about. I've had health challenges that are hard for me to talk about for a number of reasons. And I have to remember, like, oh yeah, when I started the year out, I wasn't well. And it's kind of a mystery where finally they hit the end and they were like, nothing's killing you. We don't know what it is that's causing this. So now we just have to treat your symptoms. And so luckily I found a treatment that makes my life a little bit more livable. But I've been thinking about how it's not the same thing as being healed.
Yes.
And it's not the same thing as having an answer. And whatever, in my body was causing that breakdown is still happening someplace. And I had a very full year planned before my husband got a new job in Sweden. And so I was trying to kind of shoehorn this transatlantic move in.
How'd that work out?
I'm kind of busy, babe, but you're welcome to run that. I can walk on a plane. So had a new film that we were shooting, and so it was like a different thing. I mean, there's already a deadline that I make for myself and my work to wrap shooting. We were trying to wrap by May 1st. But then it's like, no, I'm like moving across the world. So like, I really have to finish by May 1st. And that felt like an impossible task. And honestly, I didn't know until kind of the last minute if my health would make that possible or even the move possible. And then, 200 farewells and the circumstances of our move meant that we were letting go of almost everything we owned. And then we left. We arrived here. Like, my children were like graduating from 5th grade and 8th grade. And we had, like, when a friend was visiting recently, we met him in Stockholm for coffee, and I was trying to tell him these stories of things that have happened, like what happened this summer. And I couldn't believe how many times I said the phrase, and then less than 24 hours after that, and then less than 24 hours after that. Like, life just has had this density, where even the good things are the kind of good things that you have to reorganize your cells around. And they leave you feeling scrambled. And there's just like not a moment to breathe before the next one and the next one and the next one. And then I came to this place where I've not had the luxury of like falling in love with ahead of time. And so, I'm in a car from the plane, and I'm looking out the window in like things you've never seen before. And when you travel, you look at signs and you're like, oh, that's cute, or look how they do that. But instead, I'm looking out the window going, I live here now. I live here now. And it just feels like it's like breaking your brain a little bit. And then anyone who's moved also knows that there's, on top of the place, on top of leaving your city and your food and everything familiar, then like not all the friendships are going to make the jump with you. And people who are really essential to you in one season, if they can make the jump at all, it's gonna be in like a radically different form. And I read this book lately. Sorry, I know I'm like monologuing full on right now. But
Bring it, lady. I'm here for you.
My caffeine is like finally kicking in, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop. I recently read this new book by a linguist I love named Deborah Tannen, and she talks about her new book is about friendship, and she said that, the level of connection that we experience through our close friendships is actually, just as significant as what people usually only associate with romantic love. And that means that when those relationships end or change dramatically, it affects us the same way. And she says, to lose a friendship is to lose a language.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Which I think is so true. And so then it's like, okay, you've let go of almost everything you own. You're in a place that you've not yet gotten to fall in love with. And you're having to rebuild your personhood legally from the ground up. And you're doing it while feeling like you're going through multiple breakups simultaneously. So it's been like real good times, basically. It's been real good. Good times. And yeah, it's just like, okay, all right, let's make some tea. I mean, I literally have, I guess I have a few moves. I have like, I've been trying to like, so every day I just feel like all I do is I'm just like my own physician. And I'm just scanning myself, and I'm putting things into categories. And for things that are like a mind problem, I try to fix with mind medicine. So like upsetting thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like really grateful to have a few friends who let me just talk out loud to them and try to like work my way through things. I think really great therapists are good with this, those like upsetting thought loops where you're just like stuck and you need an interruption.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, then that needs like a mind medicine. And then a lot of it's like to recognize how much of it is like an actual body hurt and how that needs a body medicine. That when your body is tired, listless, in pain, that what you don't need is words. You don't need words. You need touch, and you need um, water and nature and stillness or movement, and and then to recognize like, okay, what's the part where this is like a soul hurt and what's the soul medicine for it. So it's like this kind of whatever diagnostic I can run. And then the biggest problem I run into is like needing so many different types of medicine, more than I can fit into any one day. So then it's like, okay, today I can walk through the forest. Tomorrow I can write. And my kids just started back to school a couple weeks ago, and I have so much work to do. I have like major work to do and unfinished projects kind of hanging over my head, and all I can do is like I lock the door and I leave every morning and I walk down this garden path because I live in a fairy tale world now. Um, and there's like a little miniature house next to mine that I've turned into a writing room.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I sit down at this desk and I just write. And I write until I start to weep. And then I write some more. And then I have lunch and my children come home. And that's like my life. But it's like, I think I said the other day, it's like writing as like pulling shrapnel out of my soul. It's literally just, it's not like, oh, I'm making something, this is going to be a thing. It's like, what do I literally just have to get out of my body so that it won't make me sick, and get it out. And I'm hoping someday that my heart will be steady enough that I can get back to my work and do it well. But I'm hesitant to just dive in without finding my feet beneath me. I'm sorry that was very long.
No, it was not. You stop saying you're sorry. Okay. So, first of all, your words are so beautiful about things that are so hard that it's funny when you were talking about holding the heart and the beauty, and how you move in that space. I really look at it as yes, both, yes and. It's
Yeah.
So for me, I can't let them feel that they're too far apart,
Right.
because for me that's too much. And so, and when you were talking just now about the healing process of the rhythm that your days have taken on right now, to me that feels like a really important detox, where you're, honoring where you actually are. And I think that's so important, even if you don't know where you actually are. It's like maybe it's beyond labeling or whatever, but there's this thing that I think many of us try and do, and that's act as if we're fine, and sort of soldier on, and then that leaves holes in our soul that go unhealed.
Yeah.
In my own archaeology, I've unearthed a whole bunch of unhealed stuff where it's like, well, shit, because the time that would have perhaps been most easy to heal was then, or at least not now. It's so, so tending to, how do I say this? tending to fresh wounds with mindful, heartful tenderness, I think is one of the gifts we can give ourselves that we rarely do. Acknowledging, yeah, this brokenness sucks. This feeling of displacement sucks. This feeling of being lost sucks. This feeling of not having a place to voice how I'm feeling because I don't want to, attract the shit that comes with that. People judging or not understanding or dismissing. There's this vision I have of our tiny blue marble in space, and recognizing that while we are all in this together, we are all in this alone. It's both.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I have luxuries. I'm going to, acknowledge privilege now. Yes, I have luxuries as me in this world, that I can think about things like the state of my soul, because I'm not worried about where my food's going to come from right now. I am very lucky. My house is in one piece, and yes, the mice shit all over my painting space, but my house is in one piece. I have a house. I have people, I have love, I have food, I have clothes, I have things. But I also have grief, and I also have broken places, and I have dreams, and I have wishes, and I have longings, and I have, pain, and I have, a lifetime of me up until this moment, plus whatever I cast into the future as my hopes, that are also important. And again, this is a privilege to be able to even worry or think or hold those things, but that doesn't make them less true just because it's a privilege to be able to hold them. And I feel like a shit for even saying that, but I look and I say, what power do I have to stop wind, and what power do I have to stop fire, and what power do I have? I send love. I send love. I send love. I send love. I send love and send love, because I don't know what else I can do. But I think a lot of the maybe even a lot of the global issues are based on, individual issues where we haven't tended our own hurts, our own wounds, our own inherited wounds. So much of this is legacy. I don't know. But it interests me that in your living, you, Jen-Lee, you're living of this massive physical transplantation. This, your movement through space is so obvious a transition. It's like people are like, you can see that and say, my God, that's a huge transition, and yet no one's going to know what that transition is like for you but you. What that actually means, and all the collateral, the shrapnel, the meaning of that. And I just think about transitions for each of us that way. We all are holding our own stories. We can share them best we can with language and touch and imagery and all the ways that we try to share and connect. But yeah, I think honoring our own self, our own voice, our own needs, our own wounds, our own grief, our own joy, all of this all of this that we hold is like, it's so important, and it's so hard.
Yeah, it is. And I just have many thoughts. I'm thinking about my daughter who, we made her take some medicine the other day that she didn't want to swallow. And there was like so much drama about it and possibly wailing,
I'm familiar with this.
I was thinking about that yesterday when I was walking, and I was thinking, I'm like that so much right now. Like, the truth is, I feel cranky a lot. Like I am for very much of the day, like
Mm-hmm.
the cranky child having to take her medicine, while I am also simultaneously trying to be the good parent prescribing it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I I studied culture shock in college, so
Okay, that's one
ironically,
of the funniest things I've heard in a while. I didn't know that.
it's part of my field of study. Um, and it's culture shock is like heartbreak. It's like bereavement. It's like all those things where you can know, like have a cognitive understanding of it, what the process is, but that doesn't mean you get a get out of jail free card and that you get to skip it. But I at least learned, like, what are the things you can do to ease it? What are the
Mm-hmm.
things you can do to speed your way through it a little bit better? And so it's like I know what to do, and then I make myself do those things.
Mm-hmm.
I make myself go to language class. I make myself ride public transportation around town. I make myself reach out and make new friends, even though I don't want to and I'm not ready yet. You know, I'm on the verge of making myself go back to work, even though I don't want to, even though I'm not ready yet. Just whatever piece I possibly can, you know? Um, so it looks like I'm doing great because I'm doing all these things. And I'm cranky about it a lot of the time. And I'm like, I don't want to learn your stupid language. You know what I mean? Like the part where Lucy the other day, she had a late start. She has a late start one day, and I was like, "Do you want to work on your Swedish before you go?" And she was like, "Honestly, Mom, I have to listen to it all day at school. If I have to listen to people speaking Swedish for too many hours, I just start hating them." And I was like, I understand. Um, and and I don't think we need to do things. I don't think we need to do everything publicly. I don't think every journey has to be a public journey. I don't think it all has to be a public story. I don't think we need to share things publicly in real time. There might be something later you decide. But I do feel really strongly like connection is something we desperately need, even if it's just finding one safe person, three safe people, you know. I was at my language class this morning and I was asking one of my new friends there who's from Kyrgyzstan during the coffee break. I was like, "So, are you just like exhausted all the time?" And she was like, "Yes." And we just had this moment of like, "Oh, maybe it's not just me. Like maybe this just like is part of the package." And I think that helps a lot too, where you're like, "Oh, this is part of the bereavement package. This is just part of the moving package. This is just part of the surviving 2017 package," you know? Um, and something about that is like a great relief to
Yep.
me, don't you think?
Yes.
Because you're like, "Oh, it's not just me. It's not just that I'm like weak or dumb or I can't figure out how to be like a normal grown up like everybody else." You know?
Which I've decided is a giant myth.
Oh, this is just parenting in early childhood. Oh, this is just marriage. You know? You're not doing it wrong. This is just this is what it's like, you know?
I do.
For everybody. For everyone, we're waking up every morning and turning on our phones to be like, what's still there in the world, you know? It's like some piece of it feels really universal, you know?
So we should wrap up just from a time perspective, not from a heart perspective.
Of course.
Um, but I think that's a really good note to end the recording on. So I just want to say thank you. Oh my goodness, thank you for your time. Please don't go anywhere. I'm going to stop recording in a minute and I want to say goodbye for real. But
You got it.
so so folks listening and watching, this is Jen Lee. JenLee.net is her what's it called?
Website.
I'm like, Facebook, no, Facebook, no, Facebook, no. Okay, website, and I'll put all of her contact information in the blurb that goes with this video. And there's just so much here. Thank you. This is such a soul food feast.
My pleasure.
Oh my goodness gracious. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, thanks doesn't seem like a big enough thing to say, so thank you. So I'll be posting her info, and I will see you guys next week, I guess. We'll see. But Jen, hang on a sec.